All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're embarking on what I like to call a creator's quest. We are fusing ancient narrative theory with modern AI art generation. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're exploring exactly how you can take those timeless storytelling structures, the ones humans have literally used for millennia, and actually visualize them in seconds using cutting-edge AI. So, we're kicking off our journey with a pretty daunting question, one that basically every aspiring storyteller faces when staring down a blank page. How do you actually build an anime from scratch? Honestly, it's so easy to get totally overwhelmed by complex world building. Drawing giant maps of fictional continents or writing these super convoluted lore bibles before you've penned even a single line of dialogue. Well, there's a crucial takeaway from the anime framework guide, AutoWeeb, and it's at the core of your story rests entirely on your protagonist's shoulders. Every massive anime hit started exactly like this, just rough character sketches and a central conflict. You don't need a perfectly mapped universe on day one, right? You just need a hero we actually care about and a massive problem they have to face. And why does this matter? Because audiences connect with people, not lore. Seriously, get your hero right, and the world will literally build itself around them. Okay, so here is the blueprint for your own creative journey today. 1. The call to create. 2. The monomyth blueprint. 3. Designing your anime protagonist. 4. Visualizing the quest. And finally, number 5, expanding the hero's journey. Let's dive right into section 1, the call to create. First outlined by Joseph Campbell way back in 1949, the monomyth is essentially the foundational template for your protagonist's adventure. Basically, Campbell noticed this undeniable pattern across different cultures and religions. It always goes something like this. A hero ventures out into a supernatural world, wins a massive, decisive victory, and then returns home forever transformed, bringing back some kind of boon or gift for humanity. Moving on to section 2, the monomyth blueprint. So Campbell organized his massive, and I mean massive, theory into 3 easily digestible acts. First up is the departure, where the hero separates from their ordinary, everyday world. Next is the initiation. This involves venturing deep into the unknown and facing a tough road of trials to win that ultimate boon. And finally, we have the return, where the hero has to bring that newly found wisdom or power back home, entirely transformed by the experience. Now, modern storytellers have absolutely adapted these mythic stages. We can actually compare Campbell's original 1949 concepts with Hollywood producer Christopher Vogler's more streamlined 2007 guide. Vogler basically took abstract, kind of poetic concepts like Campbell's Belly of the Whale and condensed them into a much more direct crossing the first threshold. And here's a fun fact. This exact 3-act structure is what George Lucas famously used to draft Star Wars. It really remains the invisible skeleton beneath almost every single modern anime you watch today. Which brings us to section 3, designing your anime protagonist. Okay, before we send our hero off on their epic journey, we actually need to bring them to life, right? Drawing from the prompt building guides over at Promptomania, we've got the secret sauce for engineering the perfect character. AI models crave specific guidance, broken down into anatomical prompt elements. We're talking hair, eyes, outfit, pose, and your overarching art style. Utilizing anime-specific terminology is absolutely key here. Dropping in words like a hoach, which is that single playful strand of hair sticking up, or chibi for a cute, tiny style, act as super powerful signals to the AI. For instance, let's say you combine these elements. You can easily generate a really high-quality, classic anime school character. It's all about the specificity. Long silver hair, violet eyes, a dark blue uniform. And adding environmental details like cherry blossom petals floating with a soft sunset background establishes a very distinct, peaceful mood. This isn't just a character, it's a snapshot of their ordinary world, right before everything goes crazy and changes. But hey, what if your story leans a bit more into sci-fi? Well, a simple vocabulary pivot changes literally everything. We just swap out the cherry blossoms for holographic screens and ditch the school uniform for a techwear outfit set against a dark futuristic city. The underlying prompt structure is completely identical, but the world is totally reimagined to create this super confident cyberpunk hacker. Now, if you're aiming for that high-octane shonen energy, throwing in terms like dynamic action pose mid-slash gives your samurai warrior the exact kind of kinetic energy you'd see on a manga cover. By specifying things like dramatic sidelighting and wind-swirling autumn leaves, you're essentially prompting the AI to freeze an intense moment in time. It creates a protagonist who is totally locked in and ready to face their trials head-on. All right, that takes us to section 4, visualizing the quest. So, if we imagine your anime as a full-length feature film, the progression of your hero through these specific narrative beats requires distinctly different visual atmospheres. The vibe and aesthetics of minute 0 really shouldn't look anything like minute 60 or minute 120. As your hero transforms psychologically, your visual prompt style needs to transform right alongside them. Let's break down the departure phase. When your hero is chilling in their ordinary world, you want the visuals to reflect that baseline normality. By prompting a Studio Ghibli-inspired landscape with a hand-painted watercolor aesthetic, you instantly evoke those warm, nostalgic, and peaceful beginnings. It's a safe place, right? But it's one they'll very soon be called to leave behind. Then, as we enter the initiation phase and plunge straight into what Campbell calls the belly of the whale, our hero faces a harsh separation from their known world. Here, switching your prompt to a dark fantasy style with manga crosshatch shading creates that intense, frankly terrifying atmosphere needed for a decisive crisis. Elements like the rain pouring down and a massive silhouette really symbolize the self-annihilation and subsequent rebirth the hero just has to undergo to survive. Eventually, reaching the apotheosis, which is that ultimate glorious breakthrough, requires a massive visual shift. This feeling is perfectly captured by prompting a Makoto Shinkai-style cityscape. By specifically asking the AI for a photorealistic urban background, at golden hour, with dramatic clouds with light rays, you're visually representing the transcendent enlightenment and triumph of your protagonist. It's a huge payoff. And for the final return, your hero officially becomes the master of the two worlds, successfully balancing the material and the spiritual. Utilizing prompt terms like dramatic zoom lines, screen tone shading, and high-contrast ink art really solidifies your protagonist's transformation. This tight, close-up manga panel aesthetic focuses entirely on their determined expression. Your hero has survived the journey, and more importantly, your visual storytelling has guided us, the audience, every single step of the way. Now, let's wrap things up with section 5, expanding the hero's journey. We've got to talk about this, though, because modern storytellers really must understand that the monomyth isn't the only game in town. Authors like Maureen Murdoch have outlined something called the heroine's journey. You see this in classic works like Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. This journey focuses much more heavily on internal psychological development and battling societal barriers, rather than just, going on an external conquest to find a magical elixir. Understanding these academic critiques actually massively expands your storytelling toolkit. For example, some folklorists argue Campbell kind of cherry-picked myths to fit his specific mold. Others point to what's called the American monomyth. Think of a superhero who saves the day, sure, but remains totally isolated rather than actually integrating back into society. And modern critics rightly point out that marginalized heroes often return from their grand quests without gaining the societal privilege that traditional mythic heroes just automatically get. So, now that you are fully equipped with both the structural blueprints of narrative and the AI tools to actually visualize them, the only question left is, what story are you going to choose to tell? Will you send your hero down the well-trodden path of the monomyth? Or will you take these AI prompting techniques and craft a journey we've literally never seen before? The blank page is waiting for you.